We are in downtown Dublin, Ohio, and I'm walking to work. I promised a little bit of information about how Arthor Coleman, Professor Coleman, and I met in December 1989. I had just finished a presentation at the Columbus Investment Interest Group and had lawyers and accountants and bankers and insurance people all coming up to me. None of them were investors. All of them just wanted to sell me services. Anyway, after all them were gone, Art Coleman came up, handed me a card that said Professor Emeritus, Ohio State University. Now this was before the internet, so it was virtually impossible to end up looking somebody up unless you went to the library or unless you knew people that you could go ask. Well, we talked for a while. He said he was interested in getting together and helping me with my company. And I thought, cool, this is great. At the time, I needed to have dollars essentially to build a manufacturing operation. And the manufacturing operation itself was one that would allow us to make the products we needed to make. Well, it so happened that all my vendors that I was depending on that had let me down started to produce, so I didn't need the money at that time. Well, I got a call out of the blue from Art Coleman in January, still only understanding he was a professor and thinking he wanted consulting services. He invited me to lunch and I said, sure. We went to lunch, we spent over 2 hours. He came back to my offices, sat on my auction equipment, chairs and desk, and we talked, and he gave me all sorts of incredible advice about branding, about marketing, reaching into the consumer, and it was fantastic. And at the end, we shook hands and he said, let me know if you need anything. I'll be helpful. So he took off. Me being a naive young entrepreneur, I really didn't understand the networking aspect of things at that point. So in February, he called me back up and said, I'd like to take you to lunch again. And I thought, well, that's cool, because he was really helpful the first time. So he came over, and this time he brought a CEO. It was Roland Brown of OCLC, which is Online Computer Libraries, which was a major company here in Dublin, Ohio. And I thought, wow, great, I'm gonna get advice from two people. And of course, another 2-hour lunch, and I got all sorts of advice and helpful hints on how to run the business. They asked questions about the business. At the time, I had no idea this was, in essence, a little bit of a due diligence. Well, in March, the same thing happened. He called me back and he said, hey, I got somebody else I'd like you to meet. And he said, meet me downtown. So I met him downtown Columbus, Ohio. And he introduced me to Max Brown, who was the head of a publishing company that owned major newspapers and magazines within the Columbus area. Got to tour his facility and then sat down in his office to talk about my little business, which was just a startup. Ultimately, Art came back in April, and then he came back in May. Every time he left saying, hey, let me know if you need anything. Well, in May, he came back, we had our lunch, and as he was walking away from me sitting at my torn up auction desk and chair, he turned around and put his hands flat on my table and said, Ross, what I've been trying to tell you for the last 5 months is I'd like to invest in your company. Well, I'd never really taken an investor, so I didn't really understand that entire dynamic. And I just said, sure, I'd love to have your help. So that's how I got my first investor, and that was Arthor Coleman. Read more at this post about his history. One of the things that I learned months afterward is that he sat on a couple boards of Fortune 500 companies, that he was advising entrepreneurs and business owners around Columbus for decades, that he was a professor that was virtually revered at Ohio State University and ran their marketing department. None of this I knew at the time. My own naivete actually just had me focused on what I was trying to do, not what other people were doing, who they were, and how they were trying to help me. I guess there's lessons to be learned here. One, I certainly enjoyed the help and the relationship and the connections Art made. That was phenomenal. There's a lesson learned in being humble. Art was incredibly humble and giving of his time. He was disarming. He actually got all the information he could have ever asked from me because of his approach. There was nothing for me to hide, although I would never hide anything anyway. It was the kind of situation where I just felt like I was talking to an uncle or a grandfather figure who was curious, and that was wonderful. But the advice he gave me has lasted even to today. So I'm very happy that we were able to meet, connect, and I miss him dearly, and wish he'd have been around years longer to see where Univenture went and where Univenture's going and where Biosortia and our other brands are going. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed this little piece on Art Coleman.